In a brief 17 minutes, Biden told 15 lies, nearly a lie a minute. Lie one is I've created 15 million jobs since I've been president. How about number 8? Inflation was 9% when I came to office?
Nope.
Adding to Joe Biden's very, very rough week, he gave a sit down with Aaron Burnett on CNN, and the New York Post counted 17 lies in 15 minutes. That might be a new world record.
This week with CNN, if you saw it, you may have watched it yourself. He set quite the record. The New York Post reports this. In a brief 17 minutes, Biden told 15 lies, nearly a lie a minute. From whoppers about the economy to prevarications on Israel, Biden spun a fantasy land of a presidency that voters know is false. So what we want to do is put it all together, all right? So on screen, you'll see all 15 that the New York Post lists here. I don't know what you favor, Martha. Lie one is I've created 15 million jobs since I've been president. Problem is that all those jobs came back because COVID went away and you had the vaccine. How about number 8? Inflation was 9% when I came to office?
Nope.
That's right. And on it went. There it is right there. 9% when it came to office.
1.4%.
Yeah, and let's face it, guys, it's one thing for Fox News to point out what Biden has done here, but even on CNN, they were honing in on one part of the interview in particular where Joe Biden insists that the economy is great. The American people just don't get it yet.
Life is like. And they can't buy a bigger house because of mortgage rates. They still, when you talk about grocery prices. Right. And so the president has to be careful here. That sounds like somebody in Washington telling people you're wrong. And whatever your party is, voters don't process it that way. They don't like that.
Definitely don't like being told they're wrong because it's how they're actually experiencing the economy personally.
The inflation drag, the cost of living drag is still giant out in America. And they don't like people in Washington telling them they're wrong.
Yeah, that's CNN. So, Akash, let's pick it up right there because you guys at Americans for Prosperity, you actually own Bidenomics.com, where you can see exactly what's going on in this economy. And it certainly runs contrary to what the president keeps insisting on a daily basis.
It's absolutely mind-boggling that they just keep owning that actually the economy is fantastic. And they're owning it so much that they're trotting out Kamala Harris to campaign across the country for Bidenomics, which is in one sense fitting because she's exactly the spokesperson that Bidenomics deserves. But we didn't just launch Bidenomics.com. We are actually launching a bus tour to hold President Biden and the lawmakers that voted for his agenda accountable. We're going to have 500 events all across this country, and thousands of people are going to come out to join these events because they are feeling exactly what those commentators were talking about, which is that the economy is broken, things are too expensive, and this president and his administration and those who voted for his agenda simply do not care.
That bus tour sounds fun. Maybe we should do a live roundtable on the bus tour on one of the stops, Akash. That would be a blast.
Come join us. We'll be out there, Larry.
Andy, this whole don't believe what's going on in your bank account. Don't believe what's going on with your grocery bill. Don't believe what's going on when you fill up the gas tank. The economy's strong, you idiot. I don't know. Is that working with your voters?
It's insult to injury is what it is, Larry. I think that I believe that full employment in this country is unemployment with an unemployment rate around 5%. And if I'm not mistaken, it's over 6% right now. That's the reality of the situation. People are having a hard time just funding the necessities of life, particularly AMAC members who live on fixed incomes. They're enduring the cuts to Medicare Advantage, so their health is at risk. And now you've got this clown in the White House telling people it's not what you see, it's not what you think. Listen to me because the economy is great. People are insulted, and it makes them mad, and I think it motivates them to get out and vote.
Yeah, Sarah, it's not like they can say how great things are in a tangible way, so they sort of have to throw out statistics and just say, trust us. But the real dangerous thing about that is not only do the American people feel something different, but it opens up a huge lane for your opponent.
Exactly. And Americans are sick of being gaslit, both sides of the party, even the non-voters. We see it in our tanks. We see it at the pump. We see it in our carts, our grocery bills, our utilities. Everything is so much more expensive under Joe Biden, and he can't take ownership for it. It's disgusting. How is he supposed to get voters to come out and force for him if we know that it's going to be just another expensive 4 years? Americans can't afford Joe Biden. It's that plain and simple.
That's a great line, by the way. The campaign should pick up on that. You can't afford 4 more years. Rush Limbaugh used to often refer to low information voters. And I know it sounds insulting, but what he means is voters who aren't paying attention the way we are. You know, they're not news junkies. They're not politics junkies. They're not in it, right? They have lives, normal lives. When Joe Biden and the White House and other surrogates say inflation was 9% when Joe Biden took over, it's an absolute lie. But do voters remember that, Sarah? Is it, can we rely on their real lived experience? After all, that was 3.5 years ago.
Well, think about it this way. Take the cost of living per city. DC is significantly more expensive than the rest of the country. So a $150 grocery bill for us is just as expensive for cost of living that's, you know, for a small family in rural Idaho. Like, we're all seeing the brunt of it. But many Americans outside the Beltway don't understand what that means for their pocketbook. Like, we're just cashing out dollar after dollar after dollar. But that's all they think about. They don't know the minutia. They don't look at the bills. They don't see how much money is appropriated to what. So the fact that Joe Biden is using our money so recklessly and realizing it's actually very insulting, because he thinks that everyone else in the country won't recognize it and won't vote against him for it because they're not paying attention.
But Akash, there is a learning curve here when it comes to things like inflation. You know, 9% inflation 3 years ago. Now it's 3%. People might instinctively, you know, buy what Karine Jean-Pierre is saying and say, see, it's gone down 6%, without realizing it's gone up an additional 3%. It's not going up as much, but it's still going up, inflation is, because these numbers stack on top of each other. How do you do that? I mean, there does need to be some education so people get it.
Well, there does, Larry. You're right in the way you're describing it, but people don't care about stuff like that. Prices are up almost 20% since Joe Biden took office. People don't assess the health of the economy based on pie charts from the White House. They assess it based on their own pocketbooks, their ability to make ends meet. Prices are up and wages have not kept pace. Now, of course, the media is not going to tell a fair story. And if your viewers, if conservatives are concerned about doing this, they have to understand that no one else is coming to do it for us. This is what Americans for Prosperity does. That's what this bus tour is going to be. That's what our activists go out and do every single day, 365 days a year, election year, not an election year, knocking doors, making phone calls, holding lawmakers accountable, and telling the truth about the track record of Joe Biden and the Democrats on the economy. If you're concerned that this message is not going to resonate, get up and do something about it. Join us at Americans for Prosperity and help spread the word yourself.
Yeah, and Andy, it really goes back, I guess, to that great question Ronald Reagan asked in 1980, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Now, if people really think about 4 years ago, they're middle of the pandemic, right? And that's where you get the 15 million jobs lost and all of these other things that Biden's now saying he did, when it was really just, okay, the pandemic's over, people can go back to work. That's the question. When people look back at the Trump presidency, do they think of those last horrible 9 months under the pandemic and the lockdown? Or do they think about, well, what was really kind of a prosperous term?
I think that they believe in the prosperity that Trump brought to the table, all the new entrepreneurs that were created, particularly among minorities. I think voters, and particularly AMAC members, and I'm a little biased here, admittedly, have no problem remembering the good times, the good economic times that Trump brought to the table during his presidency. I think when it comes to Biden, people realize how they were lied to during the pandemic starting in 2021. Take the vaccine. It won't hurt you. Well, now we've seen a major vaccine manufacturer yank their product from the market. So I think this resonates with people, and I think it brings back all the lies that this administration has been telling American voters over the last 4 years.
Yeah, a very good point, and we'll let it be the last one. But it is. I will just finish with this. It's amazing to think that Donald Trump pretty much spent the entire week in a courtroom facing criminal charges, and he had a very good week politically. That really says something about where we are right now.